Uriah Heep, Uriah Heep, Uriah Heep. All of these are Uriah Heep, and there's even some more in here and here. Hey guys, welcome to another collection video on the channel. Today I'm talking about a band who are very near and dear to me, and that is Uriah Heep. I'm going through my entire Uriah Heep collection, showing my rarities and really weird ones that I've only ever seen once. So join me in exploring my Uriah Heep collection. If you do enjoy this video, please go down and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos. In case you missed it, we just launched our very own exclusive WhatsApp community group, and you can join today for free. It is a group full to the brim of vinyl collectors where we talk all things vinyl, showcase our collections, and I'm even in there. I'm trying to get Poppa Dave in there if he can work his phone properly. All you need to do is go down in the description and click the link and sign up, and you'll be added by myself promptly. So why are they one of my favourite bands and why are they so near and dear to me? Well, they're one of Poppa Dave's favourites. You know Poppa Dave, the guy who is my granddad, and he always shows up in videos doing really weird things. This was him last time in Berwick Street, wiping his hands mucky of kebab on a lamppost. Now, he used to go to places like the Marquee Club in the late 60s, and he actually saw Uriah Heep before they were called Uriah Heep, when they were called Spice. The story goes that he used to go and see Spice with Modo, which is my grandmother, we like to call Modo. And they used to see Spice, and one day there was this new group called Uriah Heep, so they thought they'd go along and see them, and it was Spice. In 2018, he wanted to go and see them with me, and before they'd not really listened to the band, so we went, and that was 2018 Shepherd's Bush Empire in London. I just fell in love with the band. I'll get into my favourite song and my favourite album further in the video, but it was actually the last time that their late drummer Lee Kerslake graced the stage with the band was at that show, so I'm very happy that I got to see that. So after that show, they became a real favourite of mine, and now I think actually are one of the most collected bands in my collection. So maybe a long video, but hope you enjoy. So I'm going to go in chronological order, and that does start with the first album, of which I actually have 4 issues of it. Here are my 4 issues of Very Heavy, Very Humble. I've got 1 on bronze, and I've got 1, 2, and 3 on the infamous Vertigo Swell label. Now, I'm not crazy, hear me out. The reason why I have 3 different versions on Swell is simply because the labels are different. I know. You collectors out there, you know. This first one here does not have writing credits against the songs. The second one does have writing credits next to the songs. And this last one that I only bought the other day from one of my favourite dealers, Nick, who has some of the most amazing prog albums, and whenever he gets a double, he always saves it for me to have a look. The last one is this one. However, it does have credits, but if you look just above the Vertigo name here, it says prod by, whereas the other one that had credits says produced by. I know. There is one last one that exists on Swell, and it is a small swell instead of a large swell. So here, where there's a large swell and the Vertigo name is down here, it would be a smaller swell, and the Vertigo name would just be above the spindle hole. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a great start to a great band. I'd probably say my 2 favourite songs are Gypsy and Come Away Melinda. That's just such a cool, almost like sad melancholic sounding song, and I really like that kind of thing. So, and the last press is simply on bronze, which was their reissue label. As you can see, it looks nothing like the Vertigo label, but you know, I believe this one was given to me by Dave. All the rest of them I'd purchased for, none of them were 3 figures, but very glad to have these in my collection. Moving on to the next album, it is Salsbury, in which I have 2 copies. I have 1 on the bronze label and 1 on the Vertigo Swell label. This was of course their second album. This is my first one that I have, and it's on the bronze label there. There you go, as you can see. So this album was definitely a little bit different. I mean, songs like Salsbury, which was super long, and songs like Bird of Prey, crazy operatic vocals, and of course Lady in Black, which actually 6 or 7 years after this album came out became a chart hit in Europe. I believe it might have been Germany and maybe a couple of other countries. And the only shame with my Vertigo Swell version is that over here where the Vertigo logo actually is, there's a tear, and there's a couple of tears on here, but I actually have only seen this a couple of times in real life, and no inner, I know, but it is on the Swell label, a UK Swell, and I just want to go and say that all the swirls that I buy are UK swirls. This was one of my most expensive albums at one point, however, I've since surpassed that. I'll be sharing more about my most expensive albums in the WhatsApp community. If you want to join it again, click the link down below and sign up. Next up is probably coming to their peak years now with Look at Yourself. I have 3 copies of this. I have a clear vinyl version, which is a brand new reissue. I just had to have it when I saw it. And then I have 2 versions on the bronze label. Now again, the differences with these two are very minute. There's just a slight difference on the labels. One main difference, as you can see here, is just under all the text, you will see that there is no year date, so no 1971. Whereas on this one, you'll see the year 1971 just below all the other writing, right in the centre of the screen there. I'm not sure what these signify. One might be slightly earlier than the other. However, what an absolutely amazing album. This is definitely their peak now. You've got songs like July Morning and, of course, Look at Yourself. I mean, July Morning itself went on to be an absolutely iconic song. If you ever see one of these albums and this mirror is not torn and it's a decent price, you see, it always gets torn here. If you see it for a good price, 10, 15 quid, grab it. What an amazing album. This is one that I definitely recommend. And for me, my favourite album out the lot, Demons and Wizards, of which I only have 1 copy, and this was one of the first albums that Poppa Dave actually gave me. I was going to tell you my favourite song from Uriah Heep, and it is Rainbow Demon. It's a slower, more kind of eerie sounding song that comes in this album here. For me, this is my favourite album. Song A all the way up till the end, just amazing. This was one of the first albums I heard from this band. It's got a really cool sleeve here. If you open it out, it's got all band pictures and everything, and at the back it kind of continues on. If I open it out fully, look at that. That is just unbelievable. I think this might be a Roger Dean artwork here. So there happens to be a lot of hiring and firing in this band. So what I haven't mentioned is there would have been 5 or 10 members that had come and gone in the time that we got to this album. But when it got to this album, the lineup kind of cemented for me as their prime band, which was Lee Kerslake on drums, Gary Thane on bass, David Byron vocals, Mick Box, which has always been there, on guitar, and Ken Hensley on keyboards. That for me is the prime lineup. Next up, I've got Magician's Birthday here. I think another Roger Dean sleeve, and this was still in their prime years, I believe. Again, another album that from song 1 all the way to the end I feel was just amazing. And all these albums came so shortly after each other. All these albums came from the period of maybe 1970 to 1972 or 3, so absolutely amazing. Sunrise was one of my favourites for a very long time, which was the first track of the album. So if you get one of these, never heard it, stick it on, listen to that first track. Absolutely unbelievable. It's a little bit more of an upbeat album, this one, I feel, but still progressive in its own nature. Next up is what a lot of people say is Uriah Heep's best album, and technically it's not a studio album, and that's because it is Uriah Heep live. I have 1 copy of this. It was recorded in 1973, and it includes so many of their amazing hits. It's got Sunrise, Sweet Lorraine, Traveller in Time, Easy Living, July Morning. I mean, it just goes on and on, but this includes some amazing performances of some of their best songs in their prime years. Amazing album to have. And if you want to first get into Uriah Heep, this might not be a bad start. On to the next, which is Sweet Freedom. Now, with this one, we're still with the prime lineup. For me, this is where they started to get a little bit further on. This is still their prime lineup, but I think their prime years had kind of ended there with that last album there. You got songs like Stealing and Sweet Freedom, which are still great songs, but for me, not bad, but not prime Uriah Heep. But still really good. Still on the bronze label as well. Next up is Wonderworld 1974. Now this was actually the last album of that prime era. Gary Thane was going to be fired from the band shortly after this because of drug and alcohol problems. He actually died 1 or 2 years after this was released, so unfortunately we lost a great talent there, but nonetheless it's still a pretty decent album. Again, would say that the prime years had kind of ended. However, all the ones with this lineup are definitely worth owning, and it is on bronze as well. Next up we come to my copy of Return to Fantasy. Again, we're still on bronze for quite a few years. As you can see, the cover there opens up and it kind of mirrors itself, and then inside you've got the band there with newly appointed John Wetton on bass. Don't think this was a bad album whatsoever, but as a completionist, I want to have all the Uriah Heep albums, so as you can see there on bronze label there, as most of Uriah Heep's albums. Next up we come to the iconic vocalist David Byron's last album with Uriah Heep, and that is High and Mighty. Again, he was fired from the band shortly after, apparently due to alcohol issues. For me, Uriah Heep wasn't the same without David Byron, although I would say that Mick Box definitely is Uriah Heep. Whenever you change your vocalist, things change up, but the band actually did well to kind of adapt through their time, and that's why they still are going today. This was actually a very recent purchase of mine, and I've yet to put this on the turntable, so I'm definitely excited to have a listen to it. Now, I do have a couple of gaps in my Uriah Heep collection, so what should go next I do not have, and that would be Firefly. So we're going to skip next to Innocent Victim, which I feel has one of the coolest album covers that Uriah Heep ever produced. Look at that. And this itself actually had some really cool songs on it. It had the new vocalist, John Lawton, who used to be in a band called Lucifer's Friend. I know that band because they had a really cool song called Ride the Sky, and I saw one of those old, I think it might have been a Beat Club version of it, like a live version, and it's just like hard rock, and they had a massive tuba or something, one of those brass instruments in it, and it sounded really, really cool, and his vocals, good. Not the same kind of style as David Byron, but there's not always anything wrong with mixing it up a little bit. And which label? You guessed it. It's going to be bronze again. Also on this album was the featuring of the most long-term bass player that ever graced the band, which was Trevor Bolder. He used to be in David Bowie's group, Spiders from Mars. And he would be the longest serving bass player. And I believe he was with the band right through till maybe the late 2000s, early 2010s, when he unfortunately passed. Obscure rarity time. I've got a really, really cool copy of the album I just showed you, Innocent Victim. It is a Soviet copy, and you would imagine maybe the cover would be slightly the same, or no, not at all. Are you ready for this? There you go. That is Innocent Victim by Uriah Heep, and it's a Soviet copy. As you can see, absolutely everything is written in Russian there, and it's on a super weird label that I've never seen before. It's obviously a Soviet label. As you can see, if anyone can translate that or can tell me what that label is, please do leave it in the comments below. But this one, I came across it, and it didn't even cost me very much, but have I seen anything similar again or ever again? No, I have not. So I feel that that's probably my most unique piece in my Uriah Heep collection that I don't think many other collectors would actually have come across. Now onto the band's 1980 album, which is Conquest. And I have a reissue, which I only believe I paid £8 for a brand new copy, and an actual UK first original from 1980. Now this album featured John Sloman on vocals, which was kind of actually a short-lived vocalist, and Chris Slade on the drums, as well as the same Mick Box, Ken Hensley and Trevor Bolder. I believe this was actually the last album to feature Ken Hensley, and he would never be in Uriah Heep again. He passed only a couple of years back, and he was the one who penned most of the Uriah Heep hits. And for me again, Mick Box may be Uriah Heep, but it wasn't the same after Ken Hensley. Again, it is on the bronze label there, and the sound definitely changed by this time, but the sound does change even more with this next one. Abominog. This may actually be top 3 Uriah Heep albums for me, and that's so weird for me to say because this was so far out of their prime era. They just came back and whacked everyone in the face with this one, I'll be honest with you. It was a lot more along the lines of 80s kind of hard rock and typical rock that you would hear back in the day, but starting off with the song Too Scared to Run, it kind of ran and slapped you in the face as it started, and there was a couple of great sounding hits in there, really kind of pop rocky. It was definitely different, and they had a different vocalist, Peter Golby, on this one. But yeah, it's going to be a cheap album to find. It is a UK first here. If you're lucky, you could find one for under a tenner. If you like your hard rock, if you like your pop rock from the 80s, this is a must-have in your collection, honestly. Moving on, I'm going to get quite quickly through these last ones. We've got an anthology here. It's just called Uriah Heep Anthology. It came out in 1985. It is on Castle Communications, so it's a little bit of a cheap label. So it's the first label, apart from Vertigo and Bronze we've seen, and of course the Soviet one. But it started to switch up a little bit here when it comes to labels. And one of the band's most hated albums, I believe, which is equator. I would not own this unless I was a completionist, which I am. I listened to it once and I've not listened to it again. Maybe I should stick it back on. Maybe I would like it some more, but it's just different, you know? It's just much different. And it's also on portrait. It's not actually on bronze, this one. So it's different. If you see, you don't often see it as well. I think it's because it was so poorly selling. I might put this on my turntable soon. So what are your thoughts on this one? Let me know in the comments. I'd really, really be keen to hear. Again, we have another anthology. It's called Uriah Heep Collection. It has some songs from quite a few of their previous albums. It has some good songs on it, so I got it. Again, I'm a completionist, so had to have that. This one, I've only seen maybe twice, and that's Raging Silence. This was with the addition of their brand new vocalist, which is still here. His name's Bernie Shaw. And also Phil Lanzon. They came from the same band, which is Grand Prix. They came into the band, and this here was their lineup for the very, very, very foreseeable future until I believe the late 2000s or something on those lines, where Trevor Bolder did pass. There's a song on this album that I kind of like. It's called Blood Red Roses. It's the second song on side A, and I'll tell you what, different sounding. A lot of it's so different sounding from their early stuff, but it's not bad. So to have it, it's a really nice condition copy as well. Then here it's something that I don't actually believe that Dave has, and that's Uriah Heep live at Shepperton 74. This did come out on Castle Communications in 1990. It might be a reissue because it says on here 1986 and 1990, so I'm guessing there was one slightly earlier that came out in 1986. It's just one of the live shows from their prime era, so had to have that. Here's a weird one for you. 1991 album, Different World. Now this is actually as far as it goes in terms of having studio albums, apart from their very, very latest one, Chaos and Colour, which I'll show you in a minute. Most of their other albums are actually very, very hard to find now, and they're quite valuable. If I would have bought their 2018 album, Living the Dream, when I first saw them, perhaps there would be one more in this list, but the rest of them, very hard to come by, and a lot of them didn't even come out on vinyl. So this one is the last one for me to have. It's on Legacy Records, so I'm going to show you this label. I believe that's a very cool cover. What do you think? It's got like a crystal in the middle, and going on to the label there, Legacy Records. It's not the most pretty label, however, it wasn't a major label, so there you go. I'm just happy to have a copy of this because I don't believe I've seen another one. Then it's not like they're super rare, but stuff like this doesn't necessarily come up too often. And I've got two left, which is Still Evie, Still Proud. And I've got two left, that is Still Evie, Still Proud, which is 2 decades of Uriah Heep. It is a compilation, which with a really cool kind of sleeve, as you can see. And that last album, Chaos and Colour. It recently came out in 2023, and I'll be honest with you, I've yet to listen to it. So again, that will be on the turntable very, very soon. Uriah Heep, for me, they had to adapt. I feel like they were a hire and fire band, and they had a lot of different musicians over the years. Their sound changed quite a lot. They produced 5, 6, 7 albums within the first 4 years of actually being a band. So for a band to write that many hits in such a short period of time, they really found that balance at that time. So yeah, I'm proud to say that I'm a fan. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoy the video taking a look into my current, I say current because there's a couple of missing ones, my current Uriah Heep collection. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like down below and subscribe. Which band would you like to see next? Leave that down in the comments. I'm more than happy to listen and potentially show you some more of my collection soon. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.